Zipkin is very efficient tool for distributed tracing in microservices ecosystem. Distributed tracing, in general, is latency measurement of each component in a distributed transaction where multiple microservices are invoked to serve a single business use case. Let's say from our application, we have to call 4 different services or components for a transaction. Here with distributed tracing enabled, we can measure which component took how much time. This is useful during debugging when lots of underlying systems are involved and the application becomes slow in any particular situation. In such case, we first need to identify which underlying service is actually slow. Once the slow service is identified, we can work to fix that issue. Distributed tracing helps in identifying that slow component in the ecosystem. Zipkin was originally developed at Twitter, based on a concept of a Google paper that described Google's internally built distributed app debugger, Dapper. It manages both the collection and lookup of this data. To use Zipkin, applications are instrumented to report timing data to it. If you are troubleshooting latency problems or errors in ecosystem, you can filter or sort all traces based on the application, length of trace, annotation, or timestamp. By analyzing these traces, you can decide which components are not performing as per expectations, and you can fix them. Internally it has 4 modules: Collector, Storage, Search and Web UI. Collector: once any component sends the trace data arrives to Zipkin collector daemon, it is validated, stored, and indexed for lookups by the Zipkin collector. Storage: this module store and index the lookup data in backend. Cassandra, Elasticsearch and MySQL are supported. Search: this module provides a simple JSON API for finding and retrieving traces stored in backend. The primary consumer of this API is the Web UI. Web UI. It is a very nice UI interface for viewing traces. Next is how to install Zipkin. Detailed installation steps can be found for different operating system including Docker image at Zipkin's Quick Start page. For Windows installation, just download the latest Zipkin server from Maven repository and run the executable jar file using below command. Above command will start the Zipkin server with default configuration. For advanced configuration, we can configure many other things like storage, collector listeners, etc. To install Zipkin in Spring Boot application, we need to add Zipkin starter dependency in Spring Boot project. But here let's install the Zipkin from executable jar file downloaded from Maven repository. We will see the Spring Boot application in part 2 of this tutorial where you will learn about Sleuth. Also we will do a Zipkin and Sleuth integration example. It will take a minute or so to complete the Zipkin installation and start the server. Then we will run the URL to see the Zipkin web UI. Now once Zipkin is started, we can see the web UI. Do check the part 2 of the tutorial for Zipkin and Sleuth integration example.